Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I am VC Pramod and with me is Reshma Tiwari with the Midday News. The headlines. A very severe cyclonic storm Tauktae likely to cross Gujarat coast between Porbandar and Mahua in Bhavnagar district in the early morning of Tuesday. Home Minister Amit Shah chairs review meeting with the Chief Ministers of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Administrator of Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli to assess preparedness to deal with Cyclone Tauktae. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks with Chief Ministers of Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Puducherry to assess the COVID situation. Union Health Ministry issues standard operating procedures on COVID-19 containment and management in peri-urban, rural and tribal areas. Over 3,62,000 people recover from COVID and more than 3,11,000 new cases reported in the last 24 hours in the country. COVID recovery rate further improves to 84.25%. Union Health Ministry says more than 20 crore vaccine doses have been provided to states and union territories free of cost by the central government so far. Government plans to ramp up production of Covaxin to 10 crore doses per month. Russian Ambassador Nikolai Kudashev says production of Sputnik V vaccine to commence soon in India. Second consignment of Russian Sputnik V vaccine arrives. Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra governments decide to create special wards for treatment of mucormycosis. And in tennis, Novak Djokovic to clash with Rafael Nadal in the men's singles final of the Italian Open today. As the number of COVID cases are on the rise, we appeal to our listeners not to lower the guard, follow all the precautions and all those above 44 years who have taken the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine to get vaccinated with the second dose at the scheduled time. Stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing and focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. A very severe cyclonic storm, Tauktae, is likely to intensify during the next 24 hours and likely to cross Gujarat coast between Porbandar and Mahua in Bhavnagar district in the early morning of Tuesday. According to morning bulletin of IMD, a very severe cyclonic storm Tauktae over the east-central Arabian Sea moved nearly northwards and lay centered over east-central Arabian Sea about 130 kilometers of west-southwest of Panjim, Goa, and 450 kilometers south of Mumbai this morning. It is very likely to intensify during the next 24 hours and move north and northwestwards and reach the Gujarat coast in the evening hours of Monday. It is likely to cross Gujarat coast between Porbandar and Mahua in Bhavnagar district during the early morning of Tuesday. Met Office has warned of widespread rain with heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places in Gujarat with a wind speed of 145 to 155 kilometers per hour, gusting to 179 kilometers per hour from Monday morning. Fishermen have been advised to return to the coast and not to venture into the sea till the 18th of May. AIR Ahmedabad correspondent reports that the Gujarat government has geared up the state administration to minimize the impact of very severe cyclonic storm Tauktae.
24 teams of NDRF have been deployed in the coastal areas of Saurashtra, while additional teams have been called as a standby. Apart from these, the 6 teams of State Disaster Relief Force, along with BSF, Police and Fire Brigade, have been asked to remain alert. District administrations have been asked to take action with zero casualty approach. All public and private COVID hospitals have been asked to keep windproof windows, doors, glass and temporary structures so that they are not damaged due to heavy winds. Steps have been taken to maintain electricity supply in all COVID hospitals with additional support of diesel generators. Fishermen in the mid-sea are being alerted to return to the coast by the Coast Guard helicopters. State ministers have been sent to the coastal district to monitor the arrangements for rescue and relief works. Yogesh Pandya, Air News, Ahmedabad.
Due to Tauktae cyclone, heavy winds and rains are reported in Rajapur and Ratnagiri Taluka in Ratnagiri district. 652 persons from various villages of Rajapur Taluka are shifted to safer places. 24-hour curfew was imposed in Rajapur and Ratnagiri Taluka from 6 a.m. of today till 6 a.m. of tomorrow, while in Guhagar, Dapoli, Mandangarh Taluka, curfew will be from 6 p.m. today till 11 p.m. tomorrow. A tree fell on a railway line near Rajapur station on Konkan Railway and rail traffic was halted for an hour in the morning. Later, the tree was removed and railways are moving smoothly. Heavy rains are also reported in Sindhudurg district. Our correspondent reports that at a few places, some houses have been damaged and roads were blocked after trees fell on the roads. Local administrations are trying to remove trees and clear traffic disruptions. Cyclone Tokte caused heavy to extremely heavy rainfall in 6 districts of Karnataka last night. A heavy downpour with wind speed of over 70 kilometers per hour was experienced along the Karnataka coast. Udupi, Dakshina Kannada, Uttara Kannada, Shivamoga, Kodagu and Chikkamangaluru districts recorded over 64.5 millimeter rainfall yesterday night. More from our Bengaluru correspondent.
The rain and wind have subsided in Udupi and Dakshin Kannada districts now. Orange alert will be in force for the next 2 days. Fishermen are advised not to venture into river and sea in the coastal area. The disaster management cell has reported that the rain and wind since the last few days have killed 4 persons, damaged 112 houses, 139 electric poles and 22 transformers. There are 298 persons in 11 relief camps and 318 persons were evacuated. 2 tug vessels were caught in the storm on Arabian Sea yesterday. Out of 9 workers on board a vessel, 3 braved the storm and returned safely to the shore. 1 was found dead and another 5 are still missing. Sudhindra, AIR News, Bengaluru.
Kerala is facing heavy rain and strong winds as Cyclone Tokte passes the coast. Coastal regions are facing acute sea erosion. Widespread damage is reported from across the state. Thousands of people are shifted to relief camps. Union Home Minister Amit Shah chaired a review meeting with the Chief Ministers of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Administrator of Daman and Diu and Dadra Nagar Haveli today to assess preparedness of states, UTs and central ministries and agencies concerned to deal with the situation arising out of Cyclone Tokte. In the meeting, Home Minister specifically reviewed the preparedness of all the health facilities, especially adequate water backup, power backup, arrangements in all COVID hospitals, labs, vaccine cold chain and other medical facilities in the areas likely to be impacted by the cyclone. The Home Ministry has already released first installment of SDRF in advance to all the coastal states. NDRF has pre-positioned 42 teams equipped with boats, tree cutters, telecom equipment in 6 states and has kept 26 teams on standby. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviewed preparedness of states and central ministries and agencies concerned to deal with the situation arising out of Cyclone Tokte. Chairing a high-level meeting today, Mr. Modi directed senior officers to take every possible measure to ensure that people are safely evacuated by the state governments. He instructed to ensure maintenance of all essential services such as power, telecommunications, health and drinking water, among others, and also asked for their immediate restoration in the event of damages. Mr. Modi further directed the officials to ensure special preparedness on COVID management in hospitals, vaccine cold chain and other medical facilities, on power backup and storage of essential medicines, and to plan for unhindered movement of oxygen tankers.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to the Chief Ministers of Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Puducherry today to assess the ground situation in these states due to the second wave of corona pandemic. He also took stock of the pandemic management strategies adopted by the state governments in order to tackle the situation. Prime Minister had yesterday held a high-level meeting with Cabinet Secretary and other senior government officials to assess the COVID-related situation and the vaccination program in the country. Union Health Ministry has issued standard operating procedures on COVID-19 containment and management in peri-urban, rural and tribal areas. The ministry said a large number of cases of COVID-19 is reported in urban areas. However, a gradual increase is now being seen in peri-urban, rural and tribal areas as well. In view of this, there is a need to enable communities strengthen primary level healthcare infrastructure at all levels to intensify COVID-19 response in these areas. Health Ministry said nearly 80 to 85% COVID-19 cases are asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic. These patients do not require hospitalization and may be managed at home or in COVID care isolation facilities. The monitoring of oxygen saturation is important for monitoring of COVID patients. For this, it is desirable for each village to have adequate number of pulse oximeters and thermometers. The Village Health, Sanitation and Nutrition Committee (VHSNC) should mobilize resources to make provisions for these equipments. A system of providing the pulse oximeters and thermometers to families with a confirmed case of COVID should be developed through ASHA, Anganwadi workers and village-level volunteers. The ministry said home isolation kit shall be provided, which includes required medicines such as paracetamol 500 mg, tablet ivermectin, cough syrup, multivitamins, besides a detailed pamphlet indicating the precautions to be taken and medication details. The contact details should also be provided by them in case of any major symptoms or deterioration of health condition.
Centre has enhanced supply of vital antiviral drug remdesivir to states and union territories. After issuing the revised supply plan today, Union Chemical and Fertilizers Minister Sadanand Gowda said that considering the requirement of remdesivir in various states and UTs and to ensure its adequate availability, substantial increase has been made in its overall production and allocation. He affirmed that the increased supply of the vital drug will help in fighting pandemic with deeper resolve. Under the revised supply plan, the allocation for states like Delhi, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh and Gujarat, among others, have been considerably enhanced. The Health Ministry has informed that in the last 24 hours, the nation registered 3,11,170 new COVID cases. Over 3,62,000 people have recovered, and with this, the recovery rate has further improved to stand at 84.25%. So far, over 2.7 lakh people have recovered from the COVID-19 infection in the country. The cumulative share of active COVID cases in the country has declined to comprise nearly 14.66% of the total reported cases. Currently, over 36,18,000 people are reported to be suffering from the viral pandemic and are either hospitalized or are under home isolation. The Health Ministry has informed that 4,077 COVID-related deaths were reported in the last 24 hours, taking the cumulative toll to 2,70,284.
Union Health Ministry today said that 10 states have reported 74.7% of the new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. These states are Karnataka, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Odisha and Haryana. The ministry said Karnataka has reported the highest daily new cases at 41,664. It is followed by Maharashtra with 34,848, while Tamil Nadu reported 33,658 new cases. In the last 24 hours, 3,11,170 new cases were registered in the country.
You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. A very severe cyclonic storm Tauktae likely to cross Gujarat's coast between Porbandar and Mahua in Bhavnagar district in the early morning of Tuesday. Home Minister Amit Shah chairs review meeting with the Chief Ministers of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Administrator of Daman and Diu and Dadra Nagar Haveli to assess preparedness to deal with cyclone Tauktae. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks with Chief Ministers of Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Puducherry to assess the COVID situation. Union Health Ministry issues standard operating procedure on COVID-19 containment and management in peri-urban, rural and tribal areas. Over 3,62,000 people recover from COVID and more than 3,11,000 new cases reported in the last 24 hours in the country. COVID recovery rate further improves to 84.25%. Union Health Ministry says more than 20 crore vaccine doses have been provided to states and union territories free of cost by the central government so far. Government plans to ramp up production of Covaxin to 10 crore doses per month. Russian Ambassador Nikolay Kudashev says production of Sputnik V vaccine to commence soon in India. Second consignment of Russian Sputnik V vaccine arrives. Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra governments decide to create special wards for treatment of mucormycosis. And in tennis, Novak Djokovic to clash with Rafael Nadal in men's singles final of the Italian Open today. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts. चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे,
The centre has said that it plans to ramp up the production of Bharat Biotech's Covaxin from 1.5 crore doses to about 10 crore doses every month. Briefing media persons, Niti Aayog member Dr. V.K. Paul said total production of Covaxin doses will be further scaled up to 13 crore doses a month when 3 public sector undertakings start manufacturing the vaccine.
कोवैक्सीन के 1 करोड़ पर मंथ प्रोड्यूस हो रहा था, अब लगभग 1.5 करोड़ के करीब हो रहा है। ये 10 करोड़ तक पहुंचेगा, ये प्लान है। और सिर्फ भारत बायोटेक का अभी वो जो दूसरे 3 जब जुड़ेंगे तो 13 करोड़ तक भी पहुंचेगा। और नियर फ्यूचर में अगर हम अगस्त की बात करें तो 7.5 करोड़ पहुंचेगा।
Russian Ambassador Nikolai Kudashev has said that production of Sputnik V vaccine will commence soon in India and the capacity will be gradually scaled up to nearly 850 million doses per year. Speaking to media after arrival of the second consignment of the Russian COVID vaccine in India today, Mr. Kudashev informed that there are plans to introduce the single-dose Russian vaccine Sputnik Light in the country very soon. The Russian ambassador expressed happiness that the Indo-Russia joint fight against COVID-19.
Sputnik V is the Russian-Indian vaccine. We expect that its production in India will be gradually increased up to 850 million doses per year. There are plans to introduce a single-dose vaccine soon in India, Sputnik Light. The efficacy of the Sputnik V is well known in the world. Back in Russia, it is being successfully used to vaccinate citizens.
Union Health Ministry today said that more than 20 crore vaccine doses have been provided to states and union territories free of cost by the central government so far. It said centre has been supporting the nationwide vaccination drive by providing COVID vaccines to the states and UTs in addition to several efforts to ramp up its production and supply. More than 1 crore 84 lakh COVID vaccine doses are still available with the states and UTs to be administered. The ministry said nearly 51 lakh vaccine doses are in the pipeline and will be received by the states and UTs within the next 3 days. The country has administered more than 18 crore 22 lakh doses of COVID-19 vaccine so far. The Union Health Ministry said that more than 17 lakh 33,000 beneficiaries were inoculated with COVID-19 vaccine doses in the last 24 hours. Out of this, more than 11 lakh 19,000 beneficiaries were vaccinated for the first dose and nearly 6 lakh beneficiaries received the second dose of the vaccine.
Delhi government has extended lockdown in the National Capital Territory by 1 more week. The National Capital will now remain under strict lockdown till 5 a.m. on the 24th of this month. Informing the decision to media, Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said that substantial gain has been made in the capital city in terms of recovery and reduction in positivity rate in the past few weeks. The capital city has recorded considerable dip in the positivity rate in the past 3 weeks. From nearly 35% positivity rate towards April end, Delhi has registered around 11% positivity as per the latest COVID bulletin released by the Health Department of the National Capital Territory. Madhya Pradesh government has decided to create special wards in 5 medical colleges of Bhopal, Jabalpur, Gwalior, Indore and Rewa for the treatment of black fungus. Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has said that there is an urgent need to launch a widespread campaign in the entire state for the early detection of cases of black fungus. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
The state reported 7,571 new cases, while 11,973 patients have recovered from infection. The state's positivity rate has come down to 11.5%. Mukhyamantri COVID Upchar Yojana is being implemented promptly in the state. In the last 7 days, 3,938 corona patients have received the benefit of Ayushman Bharat Yojana. Sufficient quantity of oxygen is available in every district. Meanwhile, several districts have decided to extend the corona curfew till May 24th. The extension of curfew was decided on the basis of numbers of new cases and recovery rates in the districts. Pooja P. Vardhan, AIR News, Bhopal.
The Maharashtra government plans to set up separate wards at hospitals to treat people with mucormycosis, a rare and dangerous fungal infection which has been found in some COVID-19 patients as well as those who had recovered from the infection, State Health Minister Rajesh Tope informed. More from our Mumbai correspondent.
The number of patients with black fungus, that is mucormycosis, is increasing in the state, and therefore separate wards should be set up in government and private medical college hospitals for their treatment, said State Health Minister Rajesh Tope. He said black fungus was a new challenge and its treatment needed ophthalmologists, ENT specialists, neuro and plastic surgeons, etc. under the same roof, and that is why the state government had decided to set up separate wards. Efforts are being made to make available in the injections required for the treatment of this disease. 5,000 injections have been received and distributed, and the process of purchasing 1 lakh injections through Hopkins Corporation is underway. Pooja Pal, AIR News, Mumbai.
In Chhattisgarh, the first dose of COVID vaccine has been given to 99% of health workers of the state. Chhattisgarh has performed quite well in terms of vaccination of this category of people. The national average of vaccination in this category is 89%. The situation of corona infection in Chhattisgarh is improving rapidly. A report.
In Chhattisgarh, the positivity rate has come down from 20% to 11% in the last 1 week. More than 92,000 COVID patients have recovered within a week. Of these, around 88,000 have been recovered in home isolation, while about 4,000 patients have recovered by getting treatment in hospital. The recovery rate in the state has risen to 86%. During the last 1 week, more than 5 lakh samples have been tested. Vikalp Shukla, AIR News, Raipur.
In Tamil Nadu, capital Chennai has been witnessing a dip in the COVID positive cases. For the past 3 days, data shows a downward curve. The city had registered over 7,500 cases on the 13th, and yesterday the number of fresh cases stood at 6,600. More from our Chennai correspondent.
COVID cases started slowing down after stricter measures on the lockdown was introduced, and also because the Chennai City Corporation had stepped up the testing and monitoring of fever cases. According to the Corporation Commissioner Gagandeep Singh Bedi, 400 fever camps have been set up in the city in 200 wards of the corporation. Since 8th of this month, over 1,29,000 camps were conducted and more than 65,92,000 people were tested, out of which more than 18,46,000 people tested positive. Those who were less symptomatic were provided minimal treatment in quarantine. In another development, the government has deputed 2 IAS officers to facilitate movement of liquid oxygen from Rourkela and Kalinganagar. Till now, the state has received 110 metric tons of oxygen. Joy, AIR News, Chennai.
In the ongoing pandemic, many children have lost their parents. Several messages have been circulating on various social media platforms for their adoption. Talking to All India Radio News, former CEO, Central Adoption Resource Authority, CARA, Colonel Deepak Kumar says there are only 2 ways to adopt a child in India legally. The first one is JJ Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, and the other one is Hindu Adoption and Maintenance. He said under the current circumstances, the adoption falls under JJ Act. More in this report.
Colonel Deepak urged people not to fall for misleading information on social media regarding the adoption of children and only approach the listed agencies by the government to adopt a child.
The state level, you will find there are some agencies known as State Adoption Resource Agency. At district level, there are District Child Care Protection Unit as well as Child Welfare Committees. Childline is there, whose number is 1098-1098. They are there in almost close to 600 districts in India, and they help in actually reaching out to such children on ground, and they initially for interim care.
Colonel Deepak also informed that if anyone is aware of any child who has been illegally adopted, then they should immediately report the incident to the authorities for the safety of the child.
The safest thing to do is to just call Childline at 1098. They would then arrange rest everything to ensure that the child is taken to safety, and those who are culprits in this, they are also booked under the Act. Section 80 and 81 of the JJ Act very clearly defines the quantum of punishment also for such offences.
Colonel Deepak added that the government has devised several ways and means to support such children who are being orphaned in the pandemic. He urged people not to circulate messages on social media for adoption of children. Rather, local authorities should be informed immediately for adequate actions. Diksha Saxena, AIR News, Delhi.
Congress MP Rajiv Satav passed away at a private hospital in Pune this morning, days after recovering from coronavirus infection. The 46-year-old leader had been on ventilator for the last 23 days. He succumbed to secondary pneumonia with multi-organ dysfunction syndrome. Meanwhile, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Minister of Information and Broadcasting Prakash Javadekar have condoled the demise of Mr. Rajiv Satav. Indian classical dancer and Padma Vibhushan awardee Sonal Mansingh believes that it is duty of an artist to uplift the morale of society through their work in such a difficult time of corona pandemic.
कला ही वो रस है जो समाज रूपी शरीर में रस सिंचन करती है, हताश निराश थके मन को प्रफुल्लित करती हैं, आशा का संचार करती हैं। 2020 से शुरू हुई इस महामारी से लेकर आज 2021 में उसके भयावह स्वरूप से जूझने के लिए दवाइयां, समयोचित मदद इत्यादि के साथ मनोबल बढ़ाने का काम हम कलाकारों का है। आइए हम अपने निजी दुख दर्द को कुछ समय के लिए एक तरफ कर समाज व हमारे देशवासियों की सेवा में अपनी अपनी कला प्रस्तुति करें, जिनसे कुछ समय के लिए दर्दी भी अपना दर्द भूल जाएं व आत्मबल का अनुभव करें।
Railways has commissioned Wi-Fi at 6,000 railway stations in 5 years. Railway Ministry said Indian Railways continues to contribute to Digital India initiative and connect different parts of the country with high-speed Wi-Fi facility. This will bridge the digital divide between the rural and urban citizens, thereby increasing the digital footprint in the rural villages and also enhance the user experience. With the commissioning of Wi-Fi at Hazaribagh railway station in Jharkhand yesterday, Indian Railways commissioned Wi-Fi at 6,000 railway stations. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has greeted the people of Sikkim on their statehood day today. In a tweet, Mr. Naidu said the scenic state has contributed to national progress on many fronts. He said that Sikkim has shown us the way in leading an organic lifestyle. He hoped for a healthy and prosperous Sikkim. Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar extended greetings to the people of Sikkim on the occasion of Sikkim State Foundation Day today. Mr. Javadekar said the state is enriched with rare and exotic flora and fauna. He prayed for Sikkim's continued progress and prosperity. In tennis, world number 1 Novak Djokovic will clash with world number 3 Rafael Nadal in the men's singles final of Italian Open today. 9-time champion Spain's Nadal beat American Riley Opelka 6-4, 6-4 in the semi-finals to secure his place in the final, while defending champion Djokovic of Serbia defeated Italian Lorenzo Sonego 6-3, 6-7, 6-2 in the second semi-finals. In the women's section, number 15 seed Iga Swiatek of Poland ousted number 35 Coco Gauff of the US 7-6, 6-3 to book a spot in the final. Iga will take on Czech Republic's Karolina Pliskova in the final.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. A very severe cyclonic storm, Tauktae, likely to cross Gujarat coast between Porbandar and Mahua in Bhavnagar district in the early morning of Tuesday. Home Minister Amit Shah chairs review meeting with Chief Ministers of Gujarat, Maharashtra and Administrator of Daman and Diu and Dadra and Nagar Haveli to assess preparedness to deal with cyclone Tauktae. Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks with Chief Ministers of Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Puducherry to assess the COVID situation. Union Health Ministry issues standard operating procedures on COVID-19 containment and management in peri-urban, rural and tribal areas. Over 3,62,000 people recover from COVID and more than 3,11,000 new cases reported in the last 24 hours in the country. COVID recovery rate further improves to 84.25%. Union Health Ministry says more than 20 crore vaccine doses have been provided to states and union territories free of cost by the central government so far. Government plans to ramp up production of Covaxin to 10 crore doses per month. Russian Ambassador Nikolai Kudashev says production of Sputnik V vaccine to commence soon in India. Second consignment of Russian Sputnik V vaccine arrives. Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra governments decide to create special wards for treatment of mucormycosis. And in tennis, Novak Djokovic to clash with Rafael Nadal in the men's singles final of the Italian Open today. And with that, we end the midday news.